Hey y'all, welcome to your first year of drum lessons, week 27, drum set edition. Every week until we hit our 52nd week, our first full year, I am going to get more and more gobsmacked that we're making it this far, which is kind of silly because time passes and weeks pass, and when you go from one week to the next, the numbers add up, but I'm still gobsmacked that we started in January and here we are, more than halfway through our year. My name is Penny Larson, and I am very happy to welcome you to this series of lessons. If this is your first time here, I encourage you to explore this whole playlist, Your First Year of Drum Lessons, which started out as the plan was, let's start from scratch. You just got your drumsticks, you just got your drum set. Let's learn from the very beginning. And the first couple months really indeed are that. But I found that I was driven to take these lessons a little bit more aggressive and advanced than just what you might get in your first year of drum lessons. And so this year has turned into what might it be like for a generic student to have their first year of drum lessons with me if they were a perfect student and mastered everything I gave them right away. And so there's a lot in this playlist so far, and throughout the rest of the year, there will be a lot more in this playlist. The underlying ethic or ostensible ideal of this year of lessons is I'm at least keeping in the back of my head, it would be nice if someone in their first year or two of lessons could play pretty much everything we're working on this year. Especially some of the double stroke stuff has gotten a little advanced, but for the most part, I think most of this stuff should be attainable. But also, if it's your first time here, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of these lessons. And as always, a thumbs up is great. Thumbs down hurts my feelings, but is still good for my engagement algorithm score. So the modern world is strange. It's better for me if you dislike me than if you have no reaction whatsoever. Oh God, 21st century. Today, we are going to touch back on something we did a few weeks ago in week 24 on our Drumpad lessons. We're going to talk about clave patterns, and we're going to talk about clave grooves. There's a specific foot pattern that we're going to work toward, which I was taught as a samba foot pattern, and I usually think of it that way. I have a very shallow Afro-Cuban, Brazilian breadth of knowledge. One of my drum instructors, he was all about Latin drumming and Latin percussion, and knew all these patterns and knew all the proper names for all these patterns. And so I played them, and I started, but it was music that never really spoke to my soul in a really deep way. So I learned a lot of patterns that I then sort of tabled, right? That said, in your first year of drum lessons, I think it's hugely important that we dive into some Afro-Cuban and Brazilian music a bit, even just so you have like a taste. And I think I'm up to that challenge for you all. So today what we're going to do is we're going to have this foot pattern, which is just going to be 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1. Okay, so bass, hi-hat, bass, bass, hi-hat, right, right, left, right, right. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and But before we even get there, we're going to brush back up on our hand patterns. And once we're going to build that foot pattern in gradually. And we're going to focus on the Bossa Nova clave pattern, the 3-2 version of the Bossa Nova pattern. But then we're going to come back, and at the end of today's lesson, we're going to talk about the son clave and the rumba clave with this pattern Today we're going to do the 3-2, but at the end of the lesson I'll explain how easy it is to just turn it around to 2-3. Okay. We're back this week with a lovely worksheet, which will be available down below in the doobly-doo as a PDF. I encourage you to print this out. There are certain parts of today's lesson that I think are really essential that you do in a certain way, and I think it'll be easier for you if you're reading them as opposed to just trying to get them from me playing them for you. With that said, let's begin with number 1. And number 1 is something we did a few weeks ago in week 24 of our drum set studies. We're going to play eighth notes with our right hand and the Bossa Nova 3-2 clave with our left hand. We're going to use a new technique today called cross stick. I am not super excited that it's called cross stick because cross stick also means this. But this is the cross stick that I mean. And all I'm doing, there are a few different ways to do this. I'm resting the back of the palm of my hand, right where your wrist kind of locks into your forearm, the last little bump of your wrist there. I'm putting that on the drum head. And then I'm resting the tip of my stick on the head as well. And then I'm just finding a sweet spot right, there's a lot of different sounds we can get just by moving our stick a little bit. The sound that I'm going for is most like a woodblock or a clave. Right, remember, clave, the instrument, is just the two little blocks of wood that are played like that. That's the sound I'm going for. I usually find I'm using a snare with die-cast hoops, which if you don't know what that is, the rims, the hoops on the drum are just a little heavier. And I tend to like the cross stick sound better from die-cast hoops than from other types of hoops. And for me, I found I get the best cross stick sound if I'm in between to where the tension rods are, right? So these little doohickeys on the sides of the drums are called lugs, and into the lugs go the tension rods. And I'm generally shooting for right in the middle. If I go right over a tension rod, the difference is fairly subtle. But I like that sound a little bit more when it's between the two tension rods. And then the biggest thing is how far out or in do you have your stick? And that's where you'll really get the pitch difference, right? I'll go all the way. The snare is almost singing at that point. That's not bad. That's about where I'm going for. It's kind of hollow. My hand is more in the center. And now I've started to get really weird. And now there's there's nothing but the wood. There's no shock to the sound. There's no top. So the motion that I'm using, I'm lifting my hand. I'm keeping really only these two fingers on the stick. Because then I use these three fingers to kind of muffle the head a little bit as my stick comes down. Let's use that technique with our eighth note ride cymbal pattern and the Bossa Nova 3-2 pattern, which remember is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You should play that at a bunch of different tempos, at a bunch of different dynamic levels, until you can play it without thinking about it. I'm going to do that. I'll play it a little slower, then I'll play it a little faster, and I'll play it at some different dynamics, just so you can see how that will sound. Nice, even slower than we were just doing it. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and. And now a little faster, and how about a little quieter? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. How about even a little faster than that, and maybe a little louder? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so like I say, play that pattern until you can do it without thinking about it. The first step into our getting that foot pattern that I showed you at the beginning with this clave pattern is I'm just going to play the bass drum on the 1 and the 3. Everything stays the same. Bass drum on 1 and 3. This is number 2 on your handout. Let's try moderate tempo. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And a little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. A very important part of this exercise, this worksheet, this is true of all of our worksheets. This is extra true of this worksheet. Really master each line before you go to the next one. Try not to go on until you're feeling very comfortable with the pattern that we just played. The next step, number 3, I'm going to add my hi-hat with my foot on 2 and 4. My feet are literally just going to go right, left, almost like I was marching. Boom, check, boom, check. I'm going to do that just with my ride cymbal. We've done this pattern before, but just with my ride cymbal with the 8th notes, so you can see how that sounds without the snare drum. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Pretty easy, right? So now, let's add back in our Bossa Nova clave. A little slower. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And a little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the next step is to add the bass drum that's on the and. So we get back to that foot pattern, boom, chip, boom, boom, chip, boom, boom. I've seen teachers teach this in different ways. I was taught a way that I'm not going to teach you because in my experience, the way that works the best to shorten this process is to take each note of the clave out and work on it separately. And we're not even going to go in the order that I have them written here. The order that the next 4 are written, 4, 5, 6, 7, is the order that they will appear in the Bossa Nova clave. But we're going to learn them 4, 6, 7, 5. Just to be tricky. 4 probably isn't too bad on its own, but can be the trickiest one when we put the whole thing together. So I want you to pay attention to 4. 4 is the bass drum and the cross stick together on beat 1. Before we even do that, let me just play the foot pattern with the ride cymbal. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and... So now we're going to play number 4. We're just going to play that 1 with the bass drum, which when the pattern is looping, boom, chip, boom, boom, chip, boom, boom, becomes the second bass drum of that loop is going to play with the cross stick. Nice and slow. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and... and a bit faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like I said, we're going to skip around these 4. So next we're going to do number 6. Number 6 has the snare drum cross stick on beat 2. Thing I didn't mention, we're in 2/4 here because we're just repeating one hand note. And the hand notes progress at 1 every 2 beats, kind of. We're separating out some of them. So if my snare drum is playing on beat 2, that means it's going to play with my left foot on beat 2. Let's see how that sounds. Nice and slow. 1 and 2 and number 6. Here we go. and a little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. And next we're going to do number 7, because doing all of these out of order is fun. Number 7 in some ways is the trickiest, but because it's by itself, I think it's between 7 and 5, which is the trickiest, but because number 7 is by itself, I think it flows a little bit more naturally than number 5. Number 7 is on the and after 1, which means I'm going to play foot, snare, left foot, right foot, right? So one and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and so on. Nice and slow. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And a bit faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. The last one, number 5, is on the and after 2, which means it's on the first note of the bass drum with that loop. Boom, chip, boom, right? So technically the second bass drum note of our little 1, 2, and, right? It's on that and. But as we do this loop, boom, chip, boom, boom, chip, boom, boom, chip, boom, boom, chip, boom, boom. It's on that first boom, boom, chip, boom, right? Boom, chip, boom, boom, chip, boom, boom. Bum bum. Sounds like this. 1 and 2 and number 5 and. And a little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all 4 patterns that we're going to need to assemble the Bossa Nova 3-2 clave, the Son clave 3-2 pattern, the Rumba clave 3-2 pattern, and the 2-3 Bossa Nova and the 2-3 Son clave and the 2-3 Rumba clave. Let's work through the 3-2s first. In your worksheet, you notice for number 8 it says Bossa Nova clave 3-2. And then in parentheses it says 4, 5, 6, 6, 7. And what that means is if you go up to the line right above, you're going to play 4 and then 5. And this is a little bit of a cheat. 4 and 5 kind of get lumped on top of each other, right? Because I'm playing 1 and 2 and, right? So I'm kind of playing 4 and 5 almost at the same time. And then 6 twice, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and then 7, 1 and, or in this case 3 and. Work on 5 through 7 enough so that you can play them like just cold, right? I've been saying that so far for the whole sheet, right? But it's really important with this sheet, more so than normal. And it's pretty important normally to really get things solidly before you move on. The only way that things ever enter your playing is if you have them cold, right? If you can play them without thinking about it. The only way that you will really absorb this independence challenge, this is our first really kind of verging on impressive 4-way coordination challenge. We've done some independent things before, but nothing that's quite so many things happening at once. The Bossa Nova, the clave pattern really is its own musical pattern while we're doing, we talked about ostinatos a couple weeks ago, while they're doing this ostinato. So number 8, nice and slow. Bossa Nova clave 3-2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And now a bit faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 9 is the Son clave, 3-2 still. It starts out the same and only changes at the very end. So now I've got 4, 5, 6, 6, 4. So the only difference in the pattern is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So I've got 3 instead of the and after 3. And that sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And a bit faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 10, we've got the 3-2 Rumba Clave. This one starts the same as the Bossa Nova and the Son Clave and ends the same as the Son Clave, but that middle note, if we're doing a 3-2, the third note of the 3, instead of being on 4 in the first measure, is on the and after 4. And if you remember, if at any point you get a little bit overwhelmed by me talking kind of quickly about these clave patterns, remember to go back to week 24 of our Drumpad lesson for a little bit deeper dive into these clave patterns just on their own. Number 10, nice and slow. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And a bit faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lastly for today, I didn't mention the Rumba Clave, if we go back to 4, 5, 6, 7, is 4, 5, 5, 6, 4. I mentioned that we could pretty easily get from the 3-2 to the 2-3. I think it's pretty obvious how to do that. Let's talk about it briefly. Remember, to get from the 3-2 to the 2-3, I'm just playing the measures in the opposite direction, right? I don't mean I'm starting at the end and playing the whole thing backwards. I mean I'm playing the second measure first, the 2 measure, and then the 3 measure. So with number 8, the Bossa Nova, I'm just going to start with the second measure, the one that has the 2 left hands on 2 and 4. If I wanted to change the number of 4, 5, 6, and 7, the pattern there that I'm working on, it would be 6, 7, 4, 5, 6. And then 6, 7, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 4, 5, 6. And that sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And a little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 9, the son clave, backwards, 2, 3. Now the pattern of 4, 5, 6, 7 goes 6, 4, 4, 5, 6. And it sounds like this. Slow. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay. And a little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. I really like the 2-3 form of the son clave, in case that wasn't obvious. Lastly, number 10, the 2-3 rumba clave. Remember, so we're going through 8, 9, 10 again, and we're flipping them around. So now the pattern of 4, 5, and 6 and 7 here is 6, 4, 4, 5, 5. So a little slower, the 2-3 version of the rumba clave. So starting on that second measure, right? 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. And a bit faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 2/3 rumba clave is pretty fun too. It's funny, the Bossa Nova clave, I feel I just prefer in the 3/2 form. And both the son and the rumba clave, I tend to like the way it feels more in the 2/3. It's that ba ba da da. So starting with the 2 and the 3, ba ba. I don't know, that just feels more fun to me. That's going to wrap us up for today. This is a little bit shorter than some of our other recent lessons. On our drum set lessons, I've tried to keep it to one topic. In the Drumpad lessons, we'll do a warm-up and then maybe a reading kind of exercise and maybe a snare solo, but there's a lot of stuff to kind of cram in there. On the drum set, I really like to give you guys one idea to digest for the week. And some of the ideas probably should take more than 1 week, right? So we're going to leave it there. I bet this will provide you, if you've never done these before, I bet this will provide you with a lot of work and a fair amount of frustration. Coordinating your 4 limbs in this way, if this is something you haven't explored too much, can be really very daunting, okay? Focus on 4, 5, 6, and 7. And remember that frustration, I say this all the time, but frustration is, try and make peace with frustration, right? Frustration, if handled well, if you don't let it overwhelm you, is your friend, really. And that sounds silly, but it's true. Frustration is the reason you care enough to get better. So if you find yourself getting too frustrated with this material, take a break, work on something else, just play for a bit, and then come back to it. Don't let yourself get so lost in the weeds and overwhelmed that you lose days of practice because you're like, screw this, I suck, right? And throw a fit, and then before you know it, you haven't practiced in a few days, and then you really lost the progress you had made, right? So don't let yourself get too frustrated by this. When I first learned this, a very long time ago, it's so funny. I don't really care about my age, but it's still fun to joke as if I do. So anyway, a long time ago, I found this ridiculously challenging. I've told y'all before, but I did like 9 years of marching and drum corps, and while I was doing the drum corps thing, I was taking drum lessons, not all the time for those 9 years, but on and off. So I probably had 4 years of drum lessons during that 9 drum set lessons during that 9 years of drum and bugle corps. And somewhere in there, my drum instructor showed me these patterns, and I could not cope. My feet were so used to going left, right, marching, and I had spent so much time being able to do that and forget about it and doing anything I wanted independently over the top that my ostinato, as it was marching, right, left, right. And I could not, it took me forever to break out of that as an ostinato pattern and get into this. One last thing I wanted to mention, it's very common to see the clave pattern written as 16th notes. I've been giving it to you as 8th notes just to keep the reading a little bit easier. But if the clave pattern as 8th notes is, let's do the Bossa Nova 3/2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. As 16th notes, it's 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. And a lot of times the clave is going to be quick like that. I think of, especially Bossa Nova, and the very first thing I think of is Girl from Ipanema, right, which is probably one of the most famous songs kind of ever, certainly the most famous Latin jazz song, and one of the first times this Bossa Nova feeling had come to America. And it's pretty chill, right? Even that I might count as 1 and a 2 and a 3 Indiana, for Indiana. 1, 2, dum, bum, bum, da, dum, 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 bum. All depends on where that quarter note is. It's been a long time since I played the tune. I forget whether that's like a slow 16th note or a fast 8th note. It's right on the line. That's that crazy thing about music and counting and rhythms and blah, 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 is, you know, functionally, a lot of times it doesn't really matter whether you're counting something as 8th notes for 2 bars or 16th notes for 1 bar, or, you know, 8th note triplets versus 16th note triplets, or sacrilege, right? 3/4 versus 6/8. You can tell me they all feel a little different, but if it's not apparent in the music anyway, like if you're not feeling it in the music, so if you have, oh, this is getting esoteric, I apologize. But here I go, because it's a short lesson, so I have room to chat. Ha ha. So if I'm playing a, you know, quick 3/4 or 6/8, so I'm counting 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, or 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6. Well, if I'm accenting the 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6, or I'm accenting the 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. That can be radically different, right? If I'm thinking boom ba ba boom ba ba boom ba ba boom ba ba for the 3/4, but at that speed I'm probably not, right? I'm probably thinking 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, which then functionally is the same as 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6. So anyway, back to the clave. You can see it as 2 bars of 8th notes or 1 bar of 16th notes. I'm certain you could write it as 30-second notes if you wanted to be silly, or quarter notes with lots of rests if you also wanted to be likewise equally as silly. I just wanted to point that out. It was very common to see the clave patterns expressed as 16th notes. That foot pattern we're doing then also changes to a 16th note dealy. So instead of 1, 2, and 3, it becomes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, right? So we get it from taking 2 beats, the whole thing takes just 1. I think I'm done. Enough of you have expressed an appreciation for my rambles that I don't even feel guilty about them. So there. On a serious note, though, you know, some of the best lessons I've ever gotten from anybody, both drum instructors or other music teachers or, you know, teachers of life philosophy, have been when they're kind of off on a tangent, right? And they say this thing and it just kind of sticks with you and you go, holy crap, I never thought of that way. And so, yeah, that's kind of the way I teach, right? I'm all over the place, but I don't think that's a bad thing. And we've had the discussion before, right, about how if you're looking for the polished 3-minute, hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel kind of videos, you know, there's nothing wrong with those, but you're probably looking for not me, and that's all good, right? I am providing, or I'm trying to provide, the best Penny Larson instruction I can on YouTube. That's what I'm trying to do. And I think that's the best I can do. I think that's all I got. Anyway, all right, I promise I'm done this time. I really appreciate y'all for being here. I mentioned on our Wednesday lesson that there's going to be a little bit of a format change. This is going to go to more of a live stream style, and possibly even in a couple weeks will start being a live stream for realsies. And then of course, you know, YouTube archives the live streams, so I will leave them available for all y'all to watch later. So if you can't catch the live stream, don't fret. But that's going to be done to lower my editing workload. My editing workload at the moment is kind of insane. And I have some new gear that this weekend is going to be about figuring out the new gear and being able to switch cameras on the fly in the live stream. And that will save me a ridiculous amount of time editing, which will mean that I will be able to do more videos and I will be able to get back to practicing my own stuff. Writing these lessons and editing these videos has been awesome. It's been so much fun, but it's also been way more time consuming than I had originally intended. Um, so, so yeah. So hopefully, like I say, we'll have a little bit of a format change. Within the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be launching my Patreon page, and one of the perks is going to be, if you join that you'll be able to watch the live stream live, and probably a week early. We'll get a week ahead, and then if you're not on the Patreon feed, you'll get them as recorded feeds. There'll be some other perks too. I'm trying to think of some. If you all have any ideas that you're like, hey, I wish Penny would do this thing, but I feel weird asking her to do this thing since I'm not supporting her other than watching her videos and giving her a little bit of ad revenue, then hey, give me a suggestion for a Patreon perk. All right. So next week, probably a little bit of a format change. We'll see. Maybe not. Maybe one more week. I wanted to do a quick announcement that I don't know if you've noticed, some of my symbols have sort of morphed into TRX brand symbols. I recently became a TRX artist, and I am really excited about that. TRX are symbols that are made in Istanbul, Turkey, in the place where they've been making symbols for hundreds of years, in that old school tradition. And I played Turkish cymbals years ago, and I'm super excited about playing TRX cymbals. Next Thursday, I am going to be taking over the TRX cymbals Instagram feed for a day, and on there, I'll be doing some live stuff, and I'll post some pictures and probably a lesson or two. And yeah, so if you can check out the TRX Symbols Instagram feed next Thursday, August 6th, that would be awesome. TRX also is doing some really cool stuff on Instagram, partnering with TomTom Magazine this week, which you're probably going to be too late to see any of those. But then next week, the whole week, TRX is doing an Instagram takeover with female drummers. Every day of the week, a different female drummer is going to take over the TRX Instagram feed, and I am truly honored to be one of those taking over the feed on Thursday. I think that's it. Haha. All right, so I hope this lesson made sense to y'all. Don't be afraid to go really slowly and get these patterns so you can play them really well, right? We were using the ride cymbal and the cross stick. Don't be afraid to, if you have a cowbell, use the cowbell instead of the ride cymbal, play them on your hi-hat. Mess around with, if you feel like these are easy, figure out ways to make them hard, right? Before I see you again. Next week, we're gonna be talking about some ways. A question I got a few weeks ago was going into and coming out of fills, and the next couple weeks are gonna be all about that topic. And then when we're done with that, we're actually gonna get back to this foot ostinato. So yeah, lots of cool stuff coming up. Once again, everybody, I really appreciate you being here, and especially those of you diehards that stick through to the end. I super appreciate you all. I see you all, and I love you so much. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Penny Larson Drums. If you want to get in touch about private lessons, you can either DM me here or on Facebook or Instagram, or you can email me at penny@pennylarson.net. I will see you all next week. I hope you're all staying safe and weathering 2020 as well as can be expected, and keep practicing. And I love you all so much. Take care. See you next week. Bye.